Welcome to the Brie Pod. I'm here with Jayme Velleca, End of Life Doula and Nurse. Hi, Jayme.
Hi.
I'm so excited to have you on here today. You actually helped me with my podcast episode and made the very first All About Brie clips, and you made quotes. And then I was like, you need to come on the podcast.
Yeah, it's great. I'm honored to be here. Thank you so much.
Yes. So before we dive in, tell us a little bit about you.
Well, my name is Jayme Velleca, and I am a nurse. I have been actually a travel nurse for about 4 years, I think. 4 years. And I've been a nurse actually today. 7 years ago, I graduated from nursing school. So for 7 years, I've been a nurse, and I've worked in healthcare since I was 15. I really love traveling and helping people. I used to volunteer at an animal adoption center, actually in Maine. So it's something that I'm truly passionate about. I adopted my cat from there. His name is Bobby. He's basically like a hippie cat, but he is amazing. And he's traveled with me. So that's the basics about me, I guess, like most simple.
Oh, I love that. And that's so cool that you get to travel and just like help people, but also see, the areas that you're going to. And I love that you have little kitty that's a hippie. So I wanted to know, we were going to talk about how you are an end of life doula. And I was curious, like, so you're a nurse for 7 years. What made you want to be an end of life doula as well?
So it's actually something that I've like all through nursing, like you deal with people dying like all the time, right? So it started out like just something that like it was kind of a coincidence at one contract I was working at as a nurse. And I just like literally everybody was on hospice. And it was like those were all of my patients that I was taking care of. And it sounds a little like odd, but I was just like, I really like those were the types of people that I enjoyed taking care of. And I enjoyed making them comfortable, bringing them peace and comfort, and then providing that emotional support for the family members afterwards. Like I remember this one family member, for some reason, like I had spare time, which is very rare to come by in nursing. And I ended up like helping her pack up her mother's room. I literally like escorted her out of the building, carried everything with her. We had like an hour-long conversation. And it was just like very nice to be able to support her like in that way. It's something that I had not really gotten to do before. And then just like along the way, like there have been some patients, especially because of like COVID, that I was providing that emotional support, and family would ask me to make sure that their loved one wasn't alone when they passed away. So it was one of those things where like I would be in and out of the room in between what I was doing, and some of the people that I loved the most and loved taking care of, it was like an honor for me to be able to be there during their last moments. So that like along with like my other like spiritual aspects of the things that I love and being able to do those things, like Reiki and using like my intuitive abilities and stuff like that, it's all been like just like adding on to and like adding more and more layers as to why I wanted to do it. And then I've also had like these odd experiences with like people at the end of life where I don't know if I told you this in our first conversation, but I was like, it was during COVID and I had walked into this patient's room and I was like, man, like we're not allowed to have visitors in here. There's this guy sitting in the room. And I'm just like, that's super weird. Like, I don't know what's going on here. Like, why there is somebody here? So moral of this story, it was like this guy sitting at the bedside of this woman. And I was like talking to the family later, and they were like, yeah, that was her husband, and he had died several years ago. So it's like I'm able to use like those moments and those abilities. And it was like in that moment, I knew exactly what to say to her. And I knew to just tell her that it was safe and she was safe, right, in this moment, but then that her husband was waiting for her. So it was just like this beautiful thing that transpired. And um, after that, I ended up going to a retreat, and I had not shared like experiences like that one with people because I was afraid people would judge me. So
Yeah.
I ended up working with a business coach. I ended up working with Ashley, who you know, and I ended up going to this retreat. And at the retreat, I was actually paired with one of my now friends who had like an end of life experience. And we were able to actually like talk about our gifts together. And it was just so empowering and so amazing that we were able to be connected. But then that was the first time that I was able to share some of the things that I have experienced without judgment at all. So when I left the retreat, I was actually traveling the East Coast for about a month. I left the retreat, was looking up end of life doula programs to get certified, even though that's not something that you need. And I ended up signing up, I think, for a program within a week or two with I believe her name is Deanna Cochran. I think I'm pronouncing her name right. And she was actually an RN and a hospice nurse. So it felt very, very aligned for me. And that's kind of just like how I got started, but it's been like a long time coming. So, yeah.
Wow. That experience is so cool. Like it's like such a bittersweet moment right there because you see this guy, like I know for me with my gifts and stuff, I don't actually want to see anything, but I feel like you are so open in a very protected good way where it's needed. You're seeing like to see her husband there and to be able to share with her that he's waiting, like I feel like that's such a gift in itself. So that's beautiful that you had that experience. And I'm sure as you go toward more and more this end of life doula journey, you're going to have so many more experiences with that kind of stuff. So that's so cool. And what a beautiful I want to say passion, but also like life purpose that you have. That's so cool. Like, what a beautiful thing.
Yeah. So for the longest time, I was in denial because people told me that this is what I should be doing because they're like, you're so good at it. Like, literally, like, why wouldn't you do something like that? And I'm just like, yeah, no. I'm like, definitely not. And the other thing, I had never heard of an end of life doula before. I
Yeah.
had never heard of it.
I honestly think I've heard of it once, but then when you and I talked, I was like, okay, I get it. Like I get it now. Like I just didn't know there was a term for it. I knew that people are there and help and can do that end of life thing, but I just didn't know the name or anything. So that's what a cool thing and funny that you were in denial.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming.
Um, so I have a few questions for you. One would be why would a family member want to have a doula on their team?
So the thing with like an end of life doula, and I think the best and easiest way to explain it is that so say someone is diagnosed with a terminal illness, and then they are going to be put either on palliative care or hospice, and they're two different things. Um, but they're both through your insurance company. And a lot of times, insurance companies, like with hospice, they have to meet certain requirements. So, like to qualify for hospice, you have to meet certain requirements. Um, And I talk about this in one of my posts that I did recently, or it's like a post for tomorrow. And it basically explains like what some of the requirements are. And one of them is that their diagnosis, they need to have 6 months left to live or less. So, and then they have to have like consistent weight loss. And like they have to meet like this certain set of criteria to be on hospice. And then the other thing is that some people don't want to be on hospice. They like they just don't want to. So they just want to be comfortable and they want to die peacefully. So those are like the two things. So if someone is on hospice, that's great. Like in the nursing home, they have like the nursing staff there, and then they have like a nursing assistant that comes in and gives them like showers like 2 or 3 times a week, like whatever it is. And then they have the nurse that comes in and does like an evaluation on them like once or twice a week. But it's for a very, very short period of time. And then say that person were to go home and like your insurance company covers like so much of someone being there, but it's not like all the time. So it's for a certain period of time during the daytime hours or whatever it is, like daytime, nighttime. And the family is left to care for that loved one the rest of the time. And if they don't have like the resources to be able to do that, that's where an end of life doula would come in. So end of life doulas can do so many different things, but like one of the things that I know that I can provide, since I was a nursing assistant, I was a nurse, right, is I can provide respite care, which is basically providing family members a short or longer term of care so that they're able to sleep a full 8 hours at night. They're able to maybe work their job if their family member ends up on hospice or needing care for an extended period of time, but they do have a terminal diagnosis. Or it's simply like they just need a break because they're feeling burnout. So even like a day once a week where an end of life doula comes in for 3 hours and provides like companionship, maybe care. They might do Reiki, massage, aromatherapy, like whatever it is that that person needs or that family needs, they're able to do that in that period of time. And it's something that isn't for your insurance company. So like it's a little bit complicated sometimes, but there are certain times that it's needed. Like it's really needed because you need that extra support and you need like all the things that you can so that you're not as stressed out. So like an end of life doula can also come in and help you with household chores. They can go grocery shopping for you. They can do like whatever it is to put your mind at ease so that you can be able to focus on your loved one and really be present in those moments and spend the last periods of their days with them. So that's kind of.
Wow, that's really beautiful. I feel like the reason why that sounds like such a beautiful investment is because like it's like you were saying with your insurance, you're getting like the system, what is required, what they say is okay. But with an end of life doula, it sounds like you're getting like almost like another family member, like a sister, a long lost sister that just came in. It was like, hey girl, you get some rest. I'm gonna take care of this stuff and sit with grandma, while I do this, housework or something. I just love that it's like that family member vibe of and maybe a support system people don't have. Maybe there's not many relatives that can cook them meals so that they're able to spend that time with, their loved ones. So that is, I feel like there's love, like that. The first word that came into my mind when you were saying this is like someone that's coming in to basically love you and just be like, hey, what do you need or what do you want me to do for them? So that's cool.
Exactly. It's one of those things where you just like walk in and you're just basically like, whatever you need, I'm here for you. Like, that's all it is. I'm here to support you.
Oh, that's so beautiful. So then my next question would be, during these times of COVID, I know that we were talking about this before we came on. or the last time we spoke, and COVID made it where people could not see their loved ones, or some of the areas did let you see them from the window or something, but some didn't. So like, what advice can you give family members that are unable to visit, or like what are options can they do now with COVID creating such visitor issues?
Yeah. So, I mean, it obviously depends on each different facility. So, say your family member is in a nursing home. It obviously depends on the rules of the nursing home and the CDC and like all of these different rules. But general rule of thumb, if you want to see your family member, a lot of facilities are doing like online visitation. So like you can set up like a Zoom call or like a phone call. So like if you have like a loved one and say they have a cell phone, there are a lot of like applications that come on the cell phone already that you can do a video call with them. And a lot of times, like if your family member isn't able to hold the phone or something like that, what facilities are doing is they're scheduling meetings. So you just call into the front desk, ask them to schedule a meeting, just be like, hey, I'd really love to see so and so. And just like tell them like why you can't come in, or like if it's a rule that you can't come in, like they'll understand. And you just ask them if somebody can be there, so that you can get a chance to talk to your family member, and have like a virtual visit type thing, I guess.
Yeah, it's funny, and not like a haha funny, but it's just interesting how there are these options that I think we sometimes forget are at the tips of our at our fingertips. Sorry.
Mhm.
You know, it's like, thank you for bringing that up, because that is such a beautiful thing about technology these days, is that you're able to still find a way to connect. And even if it sounds great that they're doing the program of having a meeting, even if they're unable to hold the phone, especially those who suffer with like Alzheimer's, or are unable to really like be necessarily involved. So that's super, I think, beneficial that you shared that. For those that maybe don't know that because COVID kind of, I feel like it shifted so much for everyone that we all were kind of like on the cuff rules of like, okay, we're gonna do this. Okay, there's this. But my other question for you is for relatives or family members that just found out that their loved one has come down with a terminal illness. What are some advice pieces or tips that you could give to them?
So basically, it's going to depend on the person, because each person responds to being diagnosed to a terminal illness, or with a terminal illness rather. They respond to things differently. So some people are going to want to not talk about it at all. Some people will want to talk about it, and sometimes it makes people uncomfortable. Um, so I guess like it doesn't matter like how they're responding to it. It's just being open to being there for them in that time, and just being supportive of whatever decisions they make. So I will actually talk about my friend real quickly. Just like as an example, right? So I've had a friend and probably a couple of family members that they were diagnosed with like a terminal illness, and instead of like being there for them, and this is like one of the things that I struggled with when I wanted to share about me becoming an end of life doula, was like I didn't know what to say, so I didn't say anything at all, and but I also wasn't there for them. So my very best advice would be to just be there for them no matter what their decision is. And if you need to take like whatever time that is for yourself to process, definitely do that. But then go back, like even if it's like a week or several days, like a month later, whatever it is, right? Take the time that you need, but go back and touch base with them and still check in with them and still see how they're doing. and see how you can support them, because you do need to process your own feelings, but like it's also important for them to have people that are being supportive and checking in on them so that they don't feel isolated during their last like several months here, weeks, like whatever it is. So it's just kind of about being able to be there for them, but process your emotions. And it's kind of like a balance, because sometimes it can be really hard. Like it depends on like how close you are to the person, or like different emotions are going to come up for you, as well as the person that was just diagnosed. So it's kind of just like finding a way to be able to balance the two, but also be supportive and be there so that you don't end up questioning your decisions during that time with that person after they're gone. So does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does make sense. It's so true, because I know, like, looking back on relatives that were put on hospice or were put in that, that it's that, not put in, but like that last time for them. I think the first response is always like, oh no. And then you're like, it's not like in a rude way, but then you have that protective layer where you're like, well, I'm not ready for this, so block. I'm not going to see you because I'm not ready. But I had learned through my family is that it's just, even when you're not ready, they may not even be ready, and they need that support and love from you too. And I know, like we talked before, I was telling you about that Jerry that I met at it was one of the nursing homes, and we did this for work. And I went in and I met Jerry, and he's just so sweet. He's just talked to me about life, and it's not that he was toward his end of life, but he had talked about how he had been in the nursing home for a few years, and that he had a twin brother who was actually in another nursing home. But I'm not sure why they did bring him over, because I feel like I would be the kind of person that would be like, my twin's going to be the same one with me. But Jerry was so cool. And ironically, my brother's name is Jerry too, but Jerry was so cool. And then I said, well, do you have any grandkids? Do you have any, a spouse? And he told me, I believe his wife had passed away, and he did have kids and grandkids, but they hadn't seen him in like forever. It was like so long. And it just made me so sad, because he was so sweet and present and open. And I've noticed with many of the nursing homes that we've been to, there's always so many people like that don't, like, it's like people just stop visiting. And not to say that life doesn't get in the way, because it does, but it's just finding different ways, even if it is picking up the phone to call or video chat for a second. Like we can make time if we find the time. Well, if we're willing to find the time.
Exactly. Yeah, that totally makes sense. That actually brings up another point, and I think people forget about this. So this is just like an extra tidbit of information. So if you have like a loved one that is nearing the end of their life, or that is in the nursing home, simply creating, even just typing up like a small Word document with information about your family member, so that the people that are caring for them can tailor the care that they're providing to that person. So like you can put in this document, or like creating a memory book so that your family member can look through it, and just having things like their favorite food, their favorite music, their favorite, like specific, like get more specific with it, like their favorite songs, and like whether they like to sing, cook, like fold laundry, like whatever it is that they enjoy doing, so that during like that transition, or even right now during COVID, like the people that are taking care of your family members know all of the things that are like true to them, and they can really tailor the care to them and provide like the best care for them possible. So that's just like random information.
No, that's so helpful because I feel like we have moments where we forget that there's just so many options and ways to help with not even just transition of end of life, but transition with things like COVID and not being able to see people at all. So like a memory book, whenever they're, wanting to have that like memory lane they can go in. And especially with Alzheimer's, because I have actually a couple relatives that have/had Alzheimer's, and like there are things that they don't remember in the necessary present, but then they'll remember things like from their childhood. And so I feel like a memory book of just seeing that. And sometimes I know that with the way that Alzheimer's works, it's like they'll have moments where they come into memories. So it's like that is those different items or things that you're talking about sound so important, especially for these times when you don't know if you can go in or can't go in, or if maybe they are having that memory spurt when you're not with them. So I think that's very helpful.
Yeah, perfect.
So I wanted to have you share, where can our guests, our listeners, guests, guests and listeners find you on social media?
So my Instagram probably would be the number one way to find me for like my end of life doula stuff. So it's just at Jayme Velleca. And should I spell my name? Will people know?
I can add a clickable link in this bio for you.
Awesome. That's perfect. The other thing is you can go to my website. It's called endoflifetransitions.com. And there you can actually check out all of my services, but then also I have blog posts that are coming in the future. So it will talk about what an end of life doula is. I'll be sharing more tips on like caregiver burnout and like ways that you can take care of your loved ones during this time, but like I'll just be providing a lot of tools and stuff there. So definitely endoflifetransitions.com and check out my blog. So
yes, thank you for sharing that. I think that that's going to be so beneficial, especially like you just said, you talk about care, burnout. That is a thing that's so true. So I love that you not only help the family members, but also that those family members that are actually the caregivers to their relatives, or even caregivers that are listening, that may be a nurse that's just like, oh man, I have a burnout with it, like it's a lot, but it's a beautiful. I commend everybody and that does this, because it's can be a lot, but so beautiful too. Like, so hopefully I make sense there.
it really is. It's beautiful. I love it.
Oh. Well, we talked about how usually at this time I share the affirmations, but because you are a spiritual light worker, I would love for you to share an affirmation for our listeners today.
Yeah. So probably my most favorite affirmation is, what did I say it was? Life. Good things happen to me when I'm having fun. So basically living in joy. Just have fun.
Love it. It's perfect. So thank you so much for joining me today. I think it was so like beautiful, and I commend you. Thank you again, Jayme.
Yes. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
So with that, as you all know, I like to end with a beautiful of affirmations of: you are worthy, you are loved, you are cherished, and I am proud of you. Until next time on the Brie Pod. Bye.